Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced, and again, if you like these videos, make sure to like and subscribe. But what I want to do here is get you set up so we can start talking about learning and practicing SQL, getting hands-on with SQL. So what we're going to do is that we're going to be using an SQLite database as sort of a way to introduce you to SQL. Basically, SQLites are very sort of lightweight, portable databases. Great for different applications, not for every use case, but nothing is great for every use case. That's why there's more than one thing. But it's a really easy thing to kind of try out because you can use this website here, Replit.com. So if you go over here and you sign up for a free account here at Replit.com, once you're logged in, we can click this Create REPL button that allows us to create an environment to practice several different types of languages. Okay, so right now we're going to be focusing on SQL, but you can see here there's a lot of cool tools you can use. So we're going to choose SQLite, and we'll call this SQL 2024. And I'll hit Create REPL. And when you do that, it's going to create this sort of nice isolated environment that you can use. And the way that the SQLite REPL works is that you have two choices. There's this main.sql file that you can use to sort of just run arbitrary SQL code. But you could also use the shell and interact in a shell environment with your data, which is what we're going to do to start out with, okay? So that way you get used to the idea of working with a shell environment where you can type in commands and your computer responds, and also get used to the SQLite shell environment. So let's talk about it. Okay, so basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to resize this and move this over here so we have all the space because we're not going to really need this for now. Okay, and again, make sure that you're choosing the shell tab, not the console tab. So essentially what you're in right now is what's referred to as a bash shell. Okay, where you can run commands like ls that show you what files are in the folder. So I can see that's there. Okay, so now I understand how Replit does this. It uses Nix packages. I'm not going to get into what Nix is, but it's really cool. Okay, you can do commands like pwd, print working directory, which shows you what directory you're in. So I could do all that. Now that's cool. This is not a video about working in a bash environment, but just so you know, I can type commands and the computer responds. So theoretically, in this environment that Replit has provided me, there is SQLite. So that should be behind the SQLite 3 command. And the way it works is that the SQLite 3 command allows you to type in the name of a file afterwards, and that file becomes your database. So we'll create a database called first.db. So db being what we'll use as an extension for databases. The files could be called anything. But we'll say first.db. Okay, and now notice how the prompt changed. So again, the prompt is whatever you see right before your inserter, like the little thing that allows you to type. Okay, that is what's called the prompt. And notice that the prompt is now an SQLite prompt. I can tell because now it's before my insert point is SQLite, not this what we saw over here, which was the bash prompt. Okay. Now, if I ever want to exit SQLite, I can always just do .quit. That's the command to exit SQLite, and that'll take me back into the bash prompt. And then to go back in, I can just type in the same thing again, first.db. Okay, so now you know how to kind of get in and out of there. Cool. Now, with that, what I want to do, the first thing we should probably do is create a place to store data. Okay, so first we're going to start real simple with just like storing names. Okay. So we're going to create a table. So this is going to be our first sort of SQL command. And notice I'm typing everything in uppercase. Do I have to? No, I could type everything in lowercase if I wanted to, but convention when it comes to SQL is that you type the keywords, the words that are the actual SQL language, in uppercase, and then the non-SQL keywords in lowercase. So we want to create a table. And then we want to, after the create table command, we want to put the name of the table we want to create. So I'm going to say, hey, name. Now, the thing about relational databases is that they generally require a schema. A schema just means what are the different properties of the data that's in here. Okay, so we're going to say here that the data in this particular table is only going to have two particular properties. Name. Oh, actually, we'll say first name and last name. And then actually after, let me go fix that. After you name a field, you actually have to tell what type of data is going to be in that field. Okay, so in this case, for a string, so letters, we put varchar. Okay, varchar. So that means various characters. And then we'll put in last name. Okay, and that's also going to be a varchar field. So basically, what I'm saying is I want to create a table called name. Or actually, generally you would want to call the table plural. So let me just go back and fix that. So it should be names. So it'll be names, first name, varchar, and last name, varchar. Okay, and then that's the end of my statement. That's the end of what I want to say. So I put a semicolon at the end. Okay, you have to put a semicolon at the end. It will not recognize that it's the end of the command unless there's a semicolon. If I forget the semicolon, which I'll do on purpose, it's going to still wait for that semicolon. So if I hit enter, see, notice that the prompt shows like ... means, oh, okay, I guess you're not done yet. So that way I can, so if I wanted to write like a really long command, I could write it across multiple lines. But nope, it's just waiting for that semicolon. So I'll give it the semicolon and we're done. Now that there's actually something in the database, notice that the file actually is created. So notice that a first DB got created in here. So we have a database. Yay. Okay, so that's what's unique about SQLite 3, that it just basically creates a file that is your database. When you're working with other databases like MySQL or Postgres, usually the way it works is that you'll actually have this constantly running server. Okay, and it's constantly running server. You basically, different pieces of software communicates with the server, and then the server is aware of how it stores the data across, like possibly across one or multiple files that you never see. Okay, all that's abstracted away, and you just have to talk to this constantly running server. SQLite, on the other hand, basically, each database is its own self-contained file that's sort of portable. You can move around. Again, great and lightweight for like nice lightweight use cases. And then again, there's going to be other patterns we'll talk about if you subscribe to the channel, if you haven't yet, that take that to another level. And again, this is a relational database, so we're talking about row-based structures that are better for like transactional processing. Eventually, we'll work with systems that are in columnar structures that are better for analytical processing. Okay, so let's actually put some data into this table. So to do that, we use the insert into command. Now, the insert into command basically says, hey, I want to put some data in some rows into this table. So I have to give it what table I want to put it into. I want to put it into the names table. And then what we do is we have to provide it the information, which is the values. So the values keyword means, hey, after this is going to be the actual information I want you to put inside. So then each row that I want to insert gets a parentheses. So in this case, the first row is going to be, and I want to pass strings. So again, strings, which are the varchar type. So that's that type of data, basically text. I have to use single quotes. Okay, SQL is a little particular about this. So I'm going to use a single quote. So in this case, we'll say, hey, first name is Alex. And then we'll say Merced. Okay, so there's one row. Now I want to insert, maybe I want to insert another row. So I can do a comma. And then I'll say, hey, I want to insert, let's say my brother, Tony Merced. Okay, and then once I'm done naming all the rows that I want to insert, I can just end the command with semicolon. Okay, and then I can hit enter. Okay, now notice I didn't get any kind of errors. Like basically, if you don't get an error or any kind of feedback in SQLite, that means it was successful. If you were using like Postgres, it would probably give you like a summary saying, hey, you inserted 2 records. Every database is going to be different as far as what its response is going to be. But generally, if you don't got an error, or if you didn't get an error message, it probably worked when you're in a shell environment like this. Okay, so now let's see here. Next, what I might want to do is I am going to want to insert, no, actually now we want to actually query the table. So again, I have to first create a table, create a place to store data, and then I have to put data inside of it, and then I can query it. So I can use select to select what information that I want. And again, I can specify what specific properties I want to get back. So I could maybe only want first name. So if I just say first name, so select first name, I just want the first names from, and then where you want it from. So from the names table. And then that's it. I'm saying, hey, give me all the first names from the names table. If I do that, see, it just got me the first names. What if I want both? Okay, I could type it out the long way. First name, last name from names. I could do this the long way. And there it gets me the data. Okay, wonderful. I see Alex Merced, Tony Merced. But in this case, both of those are the whole thing. So if I just want everything, the simplest way to go about it is just use the asterisk. Asterisk always just means like everything. So I'm going to say, hey, just get me everything from the names table. Okay, and I'm still going to get that same information. But so the idea is I can do that. And the cool thing is you can even make new fields. So I could do something like this. I could say, hey, select first name plus last name. Okay, so notice there's no comma, so this is all one expression. And then I can actually say, hey, take that, and then the as keyword lets me give the result of that a name. So I'll say, hey, as name from names. Okay, let's see if that worked. Okay, I think it's because I use plus. Probably SQL, I need a different syntax that is escaping me at the top of the head. Probably a concat function. Let me actually try that out real quick. Select concat first name, last name as name from names. Yeah, but maybe not in there. Different SQL databases are going to have different functions. So again, memorizing them off the top of your head, it depends how much you work with a particular database, how well you're going to know the specifics of that one. Okay, but yes, but bottom line is I could rename fields. So that's the main thing I want to kind of show you. So if I could do first name and then use the as keyword to say, hey, let's call this first going forward, and last name, okay, which is going to be as last from names, which isn't going to matter too much right now because right now it isn't showing the heading names. We can change that with the setting, which we'll do a little bit later on. Okay, so let's actually change that setting. Okay, now from SQLite, if you want to kind of see where you could possibly change these options, you'll notice here it says, hey, if you want to find some help, just type in .help. So again, generally all the commands specifically to SQLite are always preceded with a dot. So .help, we can kind of find the little details there. So we can sit here and then look for the option regarding setting it so we can see the column names. And we can see it right here. This looks like it should be it. So see display headers on or off. Okay, so I'm assuming they mean like the name of the column, so headers. So let's turn that on. So we'll say .headers on. Okay, and now we're going to run that other query again. So we'll say select first name, but instead I would like first name to be called first. So as first. And then I also want the last name as last from names. Okay, cool. So we do that. Let's see if we see the headers now. Cool. And see, now we see the headers and we see that the fields were renamed. So even though in the database it's first name and last name, because that's the way we created the table, because I use this as keyword, I'm able to rename that column. So as you can see here in that select clause, I'm not only able to select which things I want, but I can also rename the columns that I have selected. Okay, and then again, where I want that data, from where I want that data from. Okay, so that's the basics of querying a database. So if I just want to grab certain data from a particular table, that's how I do it. And again, each of these data sets is referred to as a table, okay, which we created earlier. So I'm going to leave it at that for this video. I'll see you in the next one.